What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk to you about Virgin Galactic. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what's really been moving it and what shorts have been doing. Before we get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So over this last week, ever since it did reach kind of the peak, it has gone down a astonishing 29.88%. So I did a video when it was pretty much at its peak, went over some of the data points, what was really moving it higher, which of course a lot of that stemmed from their future guidance, a lot of optimism, but shorts during that time frame did not return, and since then shorts have only been increasing. So that's been adding a lot of kind of downward momentum on the actual stock price. And I used to cover Virgin a lot back in the day, but one thing that was always a very big kind of pain in its back was shorts. And typically whenever you have any stock, even aside from Virgin Galactic, any stock getting kind of lower and lower volume and you have a high presence of shorts, that's a recipe for disaster. So I think at the end of the day, just big money kind of took a step back. You did, although, get one good new analyst rating 7 days ago, $32 price target. Goldman Sachs, Noah, who has a 51% success rating. So 154 out of 304 recommendations had a positive return. Average return is 5%. So he's not some just chump analyst. Definitely has a pretty good rating. 51% is relatively good. So yeah, it's kind of weird. So as a consensus, you do see $11.94, the price target, representing 220.97% upside from these levels. Keep in mind, on a side note, when analysts give ratings, they're essentially for the next 12 months. And a lot of the future guidance that Virgin did give was going to be for Q4 and also rolling into 2026. So I think in reality, his price target, assuming Virgin hits all their marks and nothing goes wrong, then essentially, yeah, maybe you could see that $32 as a price target. Again, do your own due diligence and all the other fun jazz, but yeah, definitely interesting stuff. Aside from that though, nothing really coming up. They do have their their shareholder meeting on June the 5th, but based on the 5 proposed items right here, nothing really crazy to bring up in my opinion. So you have the employee stock purchase program, you have the 2019 incentive award plan, you also have the compensation for the named executive officers, you have the reaffirming of the accounting firm, and then the board of directors, the nominees. So nothing really crazy. Of course, I think some people might have a little bit of a kind of issue with point number 3 about compensation, but that's pretty much any unprofitable company. I think shareholders will have some issue with that. So let me know your thoughts on obviously Virgin, if you have been buying, if you've been selling, and what you've really been doing behind the scenes. But aside from that, getting right to it though, as far as shorts, 29% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 11.59 million shares overall are being shorted. You have seen a increase in FTDs. So of course, there's a lot of explanations for that, but I think a lot of people like to jump to the conclusion that does mean that there is naked shorting occurring. It's very, very difficult to kind of prove that, but it is on the threshold list, and anytime a stock is on that threshold list for 13 consecutive trading days, this is where you might have the SEC, or at least should have the SEC interjecting, going after the market makers to get them to rectify it. So that could be potentially coming at the tail part of this week, again, if it stays on the threshold list. But ultimately, shorts have been increasing, and they did increase about 5% of their position over this last week. So you can kind of see based on this teal line right here, or this green line, and the stock price. So despite it's going up to like, what was that, $6-7 or whatever else, you had shorts not even phased. You just had shorts increasing, and they actually did double down in reality. So I think at the end of the day, shorts, or whoever is shorting Virgin Galactic, is in it for the long haul. They are in it to really bring the stock down. So it is interesting, and you do see occasionally some stocks that just have like massive amount of shorts, and whoever those shorts are just hell-bent on destroying the company, and I think that is happening in this case. Moving over to the options, so from Friday you did have 291,000 in calls, 342,000 in puts. A lot of optimism for this one right here, so 102,000 between 9:30 and 9:35, pretty much at its peak. But aside from that one though, you do have a consensus of bearishness, so 50% of all the options being done were bearish in nature, and you can kind of see based on this, aside from that spike that did happen where it went up like 43%, you had the just number of options and dollar value just diminishing. So on Friday you did have 632,000 in overall premiums, 283,000 the day prior, and then 968 day prior to that. So you're seeing less and less kind of institutions really paying attention to Virgin. But aside from that though, from the bulls, they do feel for this upcoming week for it to be roughly between that 4 to 450. So a little bit of a recovery is anticipated. Bears are anticipating though for it to be sub 3. So you are still going to, from what it appears from this, have a battle for this week. For those individuals wanting to average down or day trade or whatever else, with it at 372, it is trading between this pivot and this S1. So 349 is going to be a strong support. Just watch for that. It actually was bouncing off of that general area on Friday, so we know that's a good support level. Aside from that though, 485 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. So based on the options, people are anticipating for it to be kind of on the high end for this, or for this S1 to be broken. So we'll just have to wait and see what does play out. But aside from that though, on the actual chart itself, there isn't really much to bring up. Of course, just because of the recent price action, it's just wedge bound right now between that 50 and 100-day moving average. Friday, it did attempt to really move higher, but unfortunately that 100-day moving average, which is at $3.90, is rather strong. So again, another element to kind of really watch for. So in reality, I think you might have some optimism for this week, especially with what just came out. So Trump did delay the EU tariffs up until July the 9th. So the market seems to be really liking that. And so far the futures are really pushing higher. So I think at the end of the day, Virgin is going to continue to be rather volatile and most likely trend down a little bit more. But with the future guidance that they did give, I think at the end of the day, 2026 is going to be a huge year for it, and most likely be able to really push it back to that kind of double digits. So let me know your thoughts on Virgin. Are you buying? Are you selling? What's your general thoughts? And do you believe that Virgin is a squeeze play? The last time I did a video was obviously when it was going up, and at the time a lot of people were getting in because of the squeeze aspect. So do you still feel that Virgin Galactic is a squeeze play, or do you think it's kind of the hype has diminished? What's your 2 cents on all that? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon. I do give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point and bangers. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.